Welcome to the third season of NC Web Dev live webinars on LinkedIn. I stream this to YouTube channel and Facebook page as well. I may be actually doing that to another YouTube channel that I just started, NC Web Dev, that I'm posting shorts on currently this week. And today the topic is, let's talk about websites and conversions, analytics. And websites have really become the thing. Was about 19 years ago, and that's exactly when I got into it. And that's exactly when my guest Mark got into it as well. So after chatting a few times, we decided to do this live webinar because between us, we have something close to maybe 40 years of experience in this field. So, and as the SEO has evolved in websites, I stuck with the websites, and Mark stopped doing websites and just focuses on website analytics, which is basically now a brand new industry or a different industry. It's parallel, but you can't be a specialist in everything. So I'm a specialist in designing websites, and Mark does the analytics and PPC campaigns and etc. So he'll help you convert and analyze what's going on with your clients. Mark is from California, grew up in the Midwest, but now he got into California at about the same time he started doing websites, allegedly. So he's been there a while, probably longer in California than websites. But anyway, he's the owner of Harbic Marketing. And here it is. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Carol. Great to talk with you. Great to be here, and happy Friday to everybody.
So, where do we start? Let me ask you a question. Let's start with a question. What is the question number one here? Yes, I've posted about this a couple of times, and how do you see the future of websites coming from now on, especially with the AI and stuff? Is there ever a client application where only squeeze pages make sense and with no other web presence, or do you always need a web presence?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I wanted to talk about that because I just talked to somebody a couple days ago who, his business is. I was initially talking to him to suss out if I saw he was in the communications website industry, did some digital marketing for his clients, and I thought maybe we could collaborate. Maybe he would need an analytics solution for his clients. And then we got to talking, and he's like, "Well, I do create squeeze pages, but that's the only thing I do. I create them to drive traffic to events. I create the events, I host the events for my clients, and then I have a separate like third-party solution that I use to evaluate all the conversion data, give it to my clients, and then he further advises his clients for attendees of their events to communicate with them via email and turn them into leads." And in our discussion, at one point he was like, "I've given up on websites. They burn me." I don't know if he's just talking about using websites as a consumer or on the business and client side, but he's like, "I'm done with websites. I only deal with squeeze pages." So I was just curious, how prevalent is that? I'm hearing more and more about squeeze pages, um, the, like in their effectiveness and just general discussion of them. It almost seems to overtake landing pages, where you have the rest of the page design surrounding it. So these days, I'm almost hearing it more switch to just squeeze pages. Um, and I mean, my personal opinion on that is that um, I I think there's too many opportunities, even today with Perplexity and solutions for AI. Google search is still very dominant right now, and Bing and other search engines. So I personally think in most industries, and feel free to fight me on this, but I think in most industries it still makes sense to not only concentrate on one or several squeeze pages for an event, for a product or service, but to create at least a skeleton, a basic structure of the rest of the website. There's always advantages for SEO and for other reasons, to share, like for example, to create an about page. Well, there's lots of places on social, and other places. If I'm big into virtual networking, so if you attend virtual networking events, a lot of them have some kind of spreadsheet, a Google sheet where you can put, all the attendees go into a roster, and you can promote your business. If you have an about page, you could put it there. So I think broadly, again, I would say this is for most industries, maybe not all, but right now in 2024, going into 25, I think there's still a place for, at least a basic structure of, you might not want to go crazy. And I still think there's advantages of creating a blog and building that out. Um, But if you have an about page, if you have a home page, um, FAQ, I think there's still a basic set of pages that you would want to create a web presence and not only do web pages individually when you want to create them for some kind of squeeze play.
Yeah, I mean, I think in I like the fact you mentioned the networking, the Zoom online networking, because that's exactly where we met through the good business karma networking, and that's frequently used now, especially with the prevalence of Zoom being used so much. And yeah, I mean, it's a great tool, and that's exactly where you need to be is a networking, and then you have the just one landing page to use or squeeze page to use for the when you share it in the Zoom chats and stuff, so that people can easily find out the basic information about you rather than going through your whole website. That makes sense. But although, and exactly, we agree on this because we've been in this a long time. I don't think big sites are ever going away. There's no reason for that because all you do is implement everything else into them. So it's kind of like a base core, and then you can have, and then it depends on whether you want to go the SEO content way, which is pretty time consuming, I would say. I mean, effective, but time consuming. So direct contact is direct contact, and especially with AI websites and AI content, you're being really flooded, and that's something I actually want to make a video on separately too. How to use and not use AI content on a blog, and it sort of makes it easier for you to stand out if you're really right human. But then Google has to go through a lot of stuff, and so will the visitors if you use that. So it's kind of difficult. But anyway, so that's just my take on this. And from your experience, what is the percentage of one page or sort of landing page websites that clients are looking to get? Like, how many clients are now looking just for the one page websites?
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up to ask about also. Um, I mean, for percentage, I'd say like I'm looking at a lot of websites in the marketing industry specifically. My clients are marketing agencies and fractional CMOs, so I'm mostly looking at that category of websites. But even in that, and going into some of their portfolio of client websites, for a particular company, um, my guess is maybe up to 5 or 10% of websites are one page, and a lot of the pros to that approach that I hear. I mean, it's less pages to manage, and you just have to worry about in-page links, and making sure that your top menu goes to the right section of that one page. Um,
I mean, I think the one page website is very useful in a lot of ways, and it will not rank you high in the search results, but that's not the point of it. I mean, there's a difference. If you want your website to search, and I guess exactly this is the difference between what you're doing is where you're doing the analytics and pointing people to a certain page, whereas in my case, what we're doing is we're just building up big websites with a lot of content, which then you have to use a lot of UX principles to navigate the people to the right page. Whereas it should always take 2 to 3 steps. You should not have to get more than 3 steps to ideally to get to the content that the user wants, because once he has to take a compass and go through your page, like step one, then you click here, then you click here, and you drag them out through 10 different steps, you're more than likely going to lose the client. But that's of course depending. I mean, maybe in e-commerce stores it's different because you go through different sections and stuff. But generally, people want to click once or twice and get the information. And I think this is one of the reasons why the one-page websites are now just really useful for many cases. And it surprises me sort of that you have that you only run into like 5 to 10%, because I recommend that to a lot of people. I says, you don't want to do nothing. So right now, because at the beginning, a lot of people, they're just unsure where they want to go with their business. I mean, they start a business, but the number one thing about business is what? It's to make your clients happy and find clients, and provide service to your clients. So whatever your idea have for a business, whatever your ideas are, you're probably going to run into an issue where the clients want something else than what you have to offer initially, and you sort of have to adapt to the market. So it's sort of like, and at that point, once you get out there into the business and once you start meeting the client's needs, then it's a lot easier to set up a whole website, because then you know the workflow, you'll know what the clients want, and you'll get a better idea. So I mean, that's why I always recommend, listen, start with one page, just to say, hey, listen, we're out there. Then do your basic, of course, home and about section or mission statement, and then you build from that. I mean, the pages. It's just not it's not something that you're going to start a business tomorrow and all of a sudden you're going to be like, oh yeah, I know everything. I got the whole map of 200 pages, and because this client's going to want this, and that. The one thing about clients is they don't really care about you or your product. They care about this. I always say that they care about how you or your product can help them and improve their life.
Hmm.
So whatever design you set up, they'll do what they want anyway. And if you're not doing what they want, they'll go away to someplace else, because competition is big. It never sleeps. Those are the two things.
That,
Uh, yeah, and here's I'll go to the next question with that, because it ties up into that. It's the website design. I'm seeing more and more websites with multiple facts, frequently asked questions, including about product service pages. Is that a practice automatically a good thing for SEO? Or are there some technical considerations to keep in mind in these larger websites from the analytics point?
yeah, and I brought that up. I'm not sure I have the best or most succinct answer on that. I wanted to turn that into a discussion. I was curious from your like you talked about before. I'm not as up on the, like, as far as coding and maintaining websites. I'm not up on the latest platforms and all the latest practices. Um, it's been a few years since I managed a website, and had to be responsible for the whole solution and the coding. Um, so I was just kind of curious what you thought, Carol, because if you have like a dedicated FAQ page, but then I see a lot of even home pages, towards the bottom or somewhere on there will be an FAQ just on that page. Product service pages, often more and more I've seen have their own FAQ built in, and I was just curious if if do is there anything in the coding or under the hood that has to be done differently, like say for a dedicated FAQ page where you might want the search engines to, if they're going to pick a page out of many on your web or several on your website that have a FAQ. Is there something coding wise that you have to do for the dedicated FAQ page versus the other ones to make the results from the FAQ page pop up on in the results, or does it
Well,
not matter and you can just kind of build them the same?
well, the way WordPress, for example, works, and that's the one that I can talk about, because I've had years of experience with it in multiple websites for multiple industries. And the way it works now with tools like Elementor is you just set up sort of central templates, and the way you put more or less weight on it is, once upon a time it used to be where you could do like keyword stuffing and whatever else, and then tie other external links into this, pointing to this page to increase the relevancy. Now Google sort of does that on its own. It doesn't care what you do and how you do it. So basically, you start an Elementor template for a FAQ, and you follow it across all the different variations and departments of FAQ you want. But the design will stay the same, so the coding won't have to do anything extra. Because in the old days, before things like Elementor, you would have to go in and change every code on every page because it would be different. But now, because you're working with the templates, so you just change the template, and then all the templates, of course, and update the template, or do the CSS on it and stuff, and you could change it around the way you want to. And if you want to have multiple looking facts, which I think is not good from the user perspective, because they have to go and, if you have one format for fact on page 1 and then a second format for fact on page 5, it gets them confused, because they're going, oh well, this one has it here, this one. So that is not recommended from the UX perspective, to change up the visual look of fact. The technical stuff that gets taken care of from the updates and stuff from the Elementor templates. So that's for that. And I forget if I want to add something else to that, but no, with WordPress, this is pretty easy to maintain. And if you're working on different frameworks and stuff, which I don't have much contact with myself. We have people that do that if somebody requires that, but 90% of businesses, I think, would just are just should be happy with WordPress websites because it satisfies most of the needs with the plugins. The problem comes in when you want to use the different plugins because you want some page to do something else, so you need a separate plugin for that. And if you want that feature on that page, uh, you basically have to tweak it or improve the code on it or whatever, make it streamline the code on that just one particular page for that particular plugin, not the page itself. But if you want something else there, it's just that because every plugin just messes up your whole. You install a new plugin and your whole WordPress site crashes. It happened to us a couple of times, so I know. It's like, well, this plugin does not like that plugin, so we'd rather not use it. But if your heart is set on it, it's just going to take us more time and, of course, more money to optimize it so it works with the rest of your website. So this is where you run into the issues with the features. But with the fact, it's pretty simple, straightforward.
Oh, okay, cool. That's great to know.
Yeah. So, and now let's get on to the next topic of SEO, my favorite. How do you stay? And something that when I saw GA4, I was like, I don't even want to get involved in this anymore. Let my guys just worry about it. Just give me the output. But in SEO, how do you stay on top of Google updates? The 50 website you mentioned that you have a 50 website study blog post on that, and how do you recover from the traffic drops if you encounter any? I've wrote a bunch of posts on that, so I'm interested to hear your take on this.
Yeah, I'll pull it up on the screen here.
Yeah, go ahead. And click.
So yeah, this is my blog post that I wrote a little while back. The headline is Trend Positive After Google Updates with Lessons from a 50 Website Case Study. I came across this case study from Zippy, which is also an SEO firm. And when I crunched, they have a very extensive report that they did from this 50 website study. Here it says, in the study, the author shares a handy chart that includes both positive and negative correlation for 42 on-page website SEO features, which basically represents either winning or losing, following Google's updates. So so my list here, and this is just kind of a crunching, condensation, distilling of his longer report. So definitely check out. I forget the guy's first name, but Shepard at Zippy. But when I went through his report, so like my list here from starting on number 1 is the most positive correlation. So all these numbers, after whatever it is, they get lower and lower. So the top of the list is like the things you would want to, according to this study, improve now before the next update, or look at your website after the next update and check if you're good on this. But he was saying things like first person pronouns will help you insulate from big traffic hits after these updates. First-hand experience, authentic first-hand experience, cookie consent, having a contact form in the footer, or contact information rather. Some even today some business websites don't have that. Having any contact information at all, that makes sense. It's going to, from comparing site A to site B, the one that has the contact information will tend to be better sourced. Head section. Most business websites include either the contact info or contact button in the head top of the website. So anyway, in this post, I can share a link to this blog post, but yeah, this kind of gives you an idea. So this study says there's certain elements in your website, and getting towards the end here, table of contents, it does have a positive correlation, but much lower than at the top of the list. And the last one, talking about the about page. If you don't include an about link in your footer, it looks like you might have something to hide. So with some of those things, I mean, is there anything in there that stands out to you that you wanted to talk about, or agree with, or disagree with?
No, I mean this. It's pretty good. The interesting part is the percentages. I always laugh at that because nobody knows how the algorithms work, so it's kind of hard to come up with the percentages, what the weight on it is exactly. So that's just my personal thing. I'm like, I understand there are more important aspects to SEO and less important aspects to SEO. That's without a doubt. And Google will tell you sometimes even this is the top three that we look at and whatever else. But from this list, I mean, they're all relevant to me. The percentages, I guess that's something that could be up for discussion. But the last one that you mentioned is the footer. The footer is interesting because actually, still to this day, I do find pages without footers, and I'm
Really?
trying to tell the people like, you don't have a footer, you don't have a page. That's basically how SEO looks at it now. If you create a website and you don't have a footer in it, where you put, of course, the business address, telephone number, ID stuff, and that's exactly what he's saying is, you have something to hide, and so it's about section as well. And it's now then it becomes a matter of how important which element in the footer is. But I would just say if you create a website without a footer, you don't have a website in Google's eyes. You lose so many points without a footer; it's unbelievable. And footer is a little bit complicated because it's a separate aspect of the website. It's kind of like stands out. You have to have the main frame, the template, and then you create a separate header and a separate footer. And a lot of the templates that I see in the let's say Squarespace and Wix and stuff, they either don't have the footer to begin with, or people when they use it and when they start doing it, they don't focus on these two aspects. And it may not seem important because it's not really content per se that should be blasting out there and attracting, but it's sort of the identification, the trust, the yeah, yes, so we are real people. It's kind of like when you get on social media and you build something and you keep building a social media platform for a year, and then they change the rules and they cancel your website, sort of, or the social media platform account or whatever you want to call it, you get blocked, you lose a year of your effort. Whereas on a website, that's going to be a lot harder to do, for that, for to get blocked for any content you post. And so therefore you need to sort of build that trust, and that's what the footer does. So it's like that's what separates a website from a social media platform website, where a lot of businesses think, yeah, we're on the internet because we have a Facebook page. No, you're not. You're not. You don't really count when you have a Facebook page as a website. And yeah, and that therefore website without a footer, it's kind of like having a social media platform. You don't have a website.
I totally agree with that. And there's another blog post. I won't worry about it sharing it, but if you ever go to harbeckmarketing.com/blog, I have a blog post that was, I think, before this one that we're showing now. But there was a study that said, I mean, this totally aligns with what we're talking about. That, in terms of like percentage of views, visitor views by section, like let's just say a homepage. So of course your top menu and your hero section, that's getting high percent. Everybody's looking at that. Kind of the middle, drops off towards the middle of the page. Drops off even more towards just above the footer. But then the footer has its own little spike. So it's true, and I see that with my website. I have a widget in my footer for my Google reviews, and it tells me as the owner of the widget. No, nobody else can see this, but I watch the percent of views of just that, somebody clicking through, because they have to do like one click to see a sampling of the reviews. Um, so that engagement keeps going up, steadily day by day. So I can tell that, that that trend that I talked about from that study, there are people who get to just above my footer, and then once they hit my footer, they do start interacting more and paying more attention. So that totally makes sense.
Yeah, and the footer can be used exactly to even put your latest content on there and stuff, because people do visit it. Like you said, it's that kind of a wave. It's like, oh yeah, there's a footer, and a lot more people than people think go to the footer because of that. Because over the years, it's just Google just follows trends and sort of sets them as well, of course, and so people get used to it. And yeah, I mean, anytime I go visiting a new website, I'll always go to the footer. I don't know if I really count because, of course, I'm in the field, but yeah, a lot of users will just go to the footer to find something. And even the most important information, you should be putting that in the footer. And the about, I would say, is most important. So definitely, I mean, yeah, we would agree on that. With the rest of the stuff, it's pretty simple forward. I mean, the first person talking about IU, that's basic content creation rules. I mean, you always want to be talking to your clients. So it's one thing about and that's in the SEO world, it's called the use of passive and active language. You know, like once upon a time, I heard about this when this happened, and that you talk about like in the third person sort of distant way. But when you start talking about like this is what I did, this is how this will help you, this is what you can find, this is how it will improve your life, this is how your whatever you're trying to achieve, you'll get closer to it. The reader needs to be related to that. So that's why they're following, that creates that connection with the reader, because the reader gets more involved in the text, in the content. So it's sort of personalization.
Yeah, that's right.
And now I have the questions for you. That was with the GA4. I'm always curious about that because I look at the stats. It sort of looks like looks the same way as the old Google Analytics, but what is the biggest difference between 3 and 4? Whatever. I mean, it was 3, right? The old Analytics.
Yeah, it was kind of, uh, I guess I'll say universally. That's kind of a pun, but it was known as UA, or Universal Analytics. But yeah, it was GA3.
And what was the big step into the 4?
Well, I mean, for me, I think it's two big areas. The overall look. I mean, it has a more fresh, modern look. Just the interface, the style of the icons and the elements, the use of white space. Um, the old one had a little bit more. It was like kind of a gray and blue color scheme, and some of the elements were smaller. So design wise, it's a little bit of a departure. And I think that GA4 matches is much closer to, like, if you look at GA4 and Google's other products, you can see more design harmony. I would say so. Visually, you can kind of tell it's more a Google product now versus UA. Looking at current Google products, um, and then the other the other thing that the big improvement, or one of the big improvements that they made in it, was in the reports exploration section. Um, it's on the one hand that they give you basically a ton more options, total flexibility to build the custom reports that you want. But so that's like the big upside. But then the downside, a lot of people complain about, and I'm still um, navigating my way around this. Sometimes when I have to create a new report, um, they um, they I think that the like interface for which columns to put in and which rows, which metrics, um, it's not very intuitive. It's almost like you need to like check with a consultant or go on YouTube and just get guidance on like how to create a report, how to um, put in different variables, how to put something into like it's drag and drop, which sounds simple, but yeah, if you look at the interface, we could pull it up here, but
Yeah. If you have some example, please do, because I have some things about that. Because I was just looking at it a couple of times in the last couple of weeks, and it was, and I'm like, you know, just the old stuff. I know it wasn't that much in depth, and that's the next part of the question I want to ask you with the depth that it goes into. But how they rename the stuff, sort of internally, programming kind of language, the programmer language style, renaming of different tags and different values and stuff. And I'm like, it's not, it's like, I don't know exactly. Does this mean what this used to mean before and stuff? So I'm kind of getting lost in that. So like the GA4 is like, to me, it's a little bit more confusing. And I don't know if the confusion is worth the new value that you're going to get.
Yeah. Um, yeah, my other tab here is being a little bit slow for loading that view in analytics, but yeah, it is slow going. I mean, I would advise, somebody brand new, if you just, logged into GA4, you just set it up for your property, for your website. Um, I would first look at, the report section, and there's like a left hand, tab with like the four main options, and then just to the right of that is like a sub menu for, if you're on reports, for example, you have a lot of options. Um, and of course, my computer is being slow loading that up, but there's like user interactions, and then under that is what is the events report, um, and that's for conversion events. So that's the area that I work in the most. I'm saying, come on, to my other monitor tab over here. It's still loading, but
That's the one thing about streaming. It takes a lot of resources from the computer. I did this a couple of months ago, and I was trying to look at other websites on another tab. And despite me freeing up all the stuff, it was still very slower loading. That's the one thing about streaming. It does take up a lot of resources. That's just my take from that. So it's like you're trying to work as you almost need a separate computer to like show stuff on. So I totally understand. So when it loads up, we can take a look at it. But to me, this was exactly what I was like.
I
It's just too
yeah.
confusing.
Well, yeah, I wanted to reference some options, but yeah, I mean, one common report that I think Google, like if you go to reports, it might automatically point you to sometimes is pages and screens. So I would say for a newbie, start there, and you'll get a list of your, all your pages, um, and the first, you know, change to that report that I or customization that I do, I typically will add in the traffic source and medium column. So I like to know, what are all my traffic sources for, you know, all my pages, but especially pages that are, higher ticket. Um, so that's one, tip that I would say to one like stock report that I would advise to check instead of, you may not want to go directly into the Explorer and create a report from scratch. See what templates in the report section that are already created. Um, See what options they are, and which ones work best for you. And there's lots of great reports also in the, um, getting into like user demographics. You can see sometimes data on gender, and some other areas. You can see, technology. You might have something that you want to market more to people over mobile versus desktop. You can see, your traffic percentages there. So I would just, under the reports main area, yeah, I would just kind of explore some of the sub-report options, and don't worry about, completing or creating a complete custom report from scratch until you get a handle on some of those other reports. And I also wanted to share. Are you cool if I share my screen again?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. No,
Thanks.
yeah, because when I first started getting to websites, I was doing my own PPC, and then 2 years later now, or 2 years ago, I was looking at getting into the PPC again, trying to set it up, and I was like, just with the meta, just with the tags that Google has now created to make it easier, of course, for marketing. But for me, I was like, you know what? No, this is a field I'm not getting into. I'm just going to leave it to the professionals. But that's what it was. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. So this is another blog on my website. Um, these are 3 YouTube channels for easy to follow analytics help. These people that I'm going to show have been very helpful for me for both Google Analytics, GA4, and Tag Manager, which is a separate, Google app that you sometimes need to use with GA4 to set custom conversion events in the GA4 events report. So just for the people out there, if you need any GA4 help in general, and especially when it comes to, um, accessing and customizing certain reports. Um, so this first guy, Analytics Mania, I'm just going to go through this very quickly, but just to show you who these people are. So here's one person, Analytics Mania, that does some great videos. Another one called Measure School that people should check out. And the last one, this is probably my favorite. I think this guy's name is Ben Ben Mangold. But the channel Loves Data on YouTube. He's really great.
All right, good tips, good things to follow. Because I was like, when you get into the GA4s, I just left it up to the programmers. That's all I can say. I'll do the WordPress. I'll set up the stuff, and I can do all sorts of other things and oversee the code, and then track the speed of the load of the site and stuff. But I'm not gonna. This another completely level. It's kind of like today. I was even saying is like you have these new AI websites that will just create a website for you in 2 seconds. And I was like, and that was my question to you as well, because it ties into what I've been talking about and what I've been focusing on is if somebody creates an AI website, and of course, then Google will, you could just plug in Google Analytics because it's just probably a standard website anyway. But how easy or how much more difficult it is for you to set up the tracking if you have to set up the tags in there and stuff like that?
For which kind of website?
Or AI generated websites like the GoDaddy has now. Oh yeah, you could just do the GoDaddy Arrow or something like that, whatever they call it. It's like, oh, you can just click twice and then your whole website is set up. And so if let's say it sets up a website with like 10 pages, and then how is it easier or more difficult to go in there and set up the specific tracking for each page?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if I've worked on AI websites yet for tracking. I don't think I have. Um, so it may not be something that I can answer yet. In theory, it sounds, I mean, as long as you can access the pages that the AI created later in whatever platform, then um, then you can work on the code and update the code on the platform if you need to around the CTA to get it. And sometimes again you have to bring in Google Tag Manager with the website platform and GA4 to get it all to work in the GA4 reports. Um, but yeah, as long as you can access the back end that whether it was a human created or AI created the page, if you can access the individual page, then yeah, it's no problem to set up any kind of CTA specific tracking.
Yeah, but it still requires that human touch. Because I don't see I don't see right now how you would say to the AI, well, I'll set it up for Google Analytics 4. I don't think there is a tool that would do that yet.
Yeah, I think you're right. We're not there yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's not to say I always love new tech and I always love all the stuff that it brings, including the headaches every time you get your Windows updated, or your phone. They change the color, they move the stuff from one side to the other. And it's like, well, I used to have clock on the left side, and without me wanting to, I now have clock on the right side on the phone. Android did that a couple of times, and I was like, just annoying. But same thing with the tech. I mean, I love the new tech, I love when it comes, but then it brings with it a lot of questions and headaches, hence headaches, because you always have to get used to something new. And so for right now, I think the basic thing with AI websites is something that I posted today about, and it's just there's a lot of pros and cons. You get online fast, but then the extra modifications generally will take more time. And that's speaking from my experience as a translator, is because people come to me and they wanted to save money because they already translated the text. And they said, well, you could just proofread it and improve it. But if the guy is not very proficient in English, I basically have to rewrite the text usually. So thinking whether the AI generated websites won't be the same thing. It's just like you come with it and you try to do some modifications or editing or add this or add that or take away that, and then by the end of the day, you'll realize that you would have done it at half the time if you just started from scratch.
Yeah, that's so true. I was trying to pull up. Yeah, I think I know which post you're talking about. I was going to pull up on your LinkedIn, and I saw your deck, so I'm trying to pull it up again. But yeah, there was a couple slides in particular that I wanted to. Yeah, it's the one where you're saying our AI created websites a smart move.
I could open up here if you want. I have it right here.
All right, cool.
Which one you talking about? You just talk about the first page?
It's the one that's 12 pages, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying which page you want me to show. The first page?
Let me go to it. Let's see here.
Because I have it right here. I have no problem. I could do that. Uh, you have it there, or should I pull it up? Because I have it ready.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm looking at it on my end, but I was just trying to see. I know when I looked at it yesterday, there were a couple slides that I mean, I agree with you in the whole thing, but there was ones that especially agree with you and wanted to talk
This
further
one,
with you on.
this one here.
Oh, I'm not seeing it.
Uh, okay, hold on. It should be on there now, right?
Yep.
Yeah, here it is. So is this the one you're talking about, or which one?
Um, yeah, it's that deck, and
Yeah,
yeah,
which
if you scroll through it,
that's what I'm talking about. It's acting weird when I have this, but which one
um,
I haven't? Okay, when you go to individual,
like for example, number 9, even though it's towards the end, control of our content. Um, I certainly agree with that, with what I know about website management platforms and how you can be limited to whatever you put in the prompt for what it creates for the website. But yeah, like for that tip in there.
this one
Yeah,
here.
yep, that's the one. Yeah, I was just curious if you wanted to talk about that a little bit further, because that was one of the ones that I really agreed on.
Yeah, because what happens is in WordPress is again you go into you go into and you create your own template, and you could duplicate the template, and then you need to just put something, just 2 lines here. You'll just do template 2 of this one because you could just categorize it. Where you have in WordPress you have posts, you have pages, headers, footers, and stuff, and you could do you could do it by category. So when the AI creates it, I don't think it creates the proper structure. So therefore, when you're going to try to do like a duplicate of, let's say, a certain page of a category, and then you just want to do the modifications on it, I'm not sure if the AI will allow you to do that, or if you can have a master, like sort of a master template for that one category and just modify it by replicating it and stuff. Because every time a programmer does something, he does it himself his way, and then it's up to you to like sort of rewrite the code again after that programmer and just do the modifications, which I think is a little bit longer. And it's not to say that my team, for example, doesn't use AI to optimize the code. They do, but again, he'll take a code that he told me the other day. He says, I wrote a code. It's kind of like 180 or 120 lines. And then I put it into the AI and I said, optimize this. And it made it into a 30-line code. And so he took the 30-line code, he tested it. He says, well, it does the same thing that I wanted to do. So good. So now we have just a much faster page because of that. But that's, again, the human working with AI and using the AI to streamline the process. Whereas if you just let the AI do it, you don't know what it does. You open up the code, and it's kind of the reference back to what I said is like somebody sends me a bad translation and wants me to charge him third of the money, but it takes me double the time. I'm like, the proofreading you made, the copy you send is so horrible. I have to rewrite it. So it's kind of like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to charge you double for that for a translation. And I feel this is going to be similar with the code, because the AI generated code may be ideal for something, but the extra modifications are going to cost you extra time usually, because you have to read through the AI's code and see what it actually meant by this or that. So
That makes sense. So we're not at a point where, in your judgment, being in the field, you don't think there's any application where you could just say create, maybe only if it's a one-page website like we talked about earlier, but you're saying for a website that has at least a few pages, you can't just say AI create this and post it and not have a human, a coder, check it at all. You're saying that there's 100% chance that if somebody does that, that the AI will make a mistake somewhere. Um,
AI hallucinates all the time. You actually have court cases on that now. I mean, if you look it up, there are court cases about content being posted, created, and copied, because the whole premise of AI is it's not original. It learns from human stuff, and it needs humans to learn. And once it learns it, it doesn't create new stuff from it. It just takes the fragments and sort of regurgitates it in an ideal. The algorithm calculates how you want it to look. So that's always difficult because people think that AI will create new stuff. In some instances, yes, but in other instances, it just regurgitates what you created, so it's not original. So if you need to solve a specific problem, it will not do that. For the one-page websites, for example, which is basically not a website, it's just a landing page, I think that's fine. At the moment, when you're trying to edit it and do something more with it and grow out of that, you're going to run into a lot of issues. That's the whole thing. That's my premise for that. And then once the AI gets so good that it will be able to do these complex things, you will still have to learn the prompting at least. So the coders won't be coders anymore; they'll be prompters, which essentially comes down to the same thing because you're going to have to take a 6-month course just to learn prompting. so so either way, it's just as the technology will grow, and okay, so we're not going to be using the coders that will just write the code in the HTTP, HTML codes stuff. They're just going to have to write. They're just going to have to write good prompts because even today, like how long does it take you, for example, if you do AI generated image? I mean, it takes you a while because you got to get the proper prompt. And then every time you write the same, even if you do the same prompt 6 times, you're going to get 24 different results because it gives you 4 different options each time. And so you give it so, and that's now translate that and imagine that in the website. So you give it the prompt, it'll create the website. It can create 4 different versions, but they're going to be 4 different codes. So and now you're going to go back and say, well, I don't want it to do this. I want it to do this. So you have to go back and you have to rewrite the prompt. At that point, you're basically a coder, except you don't talk HTML, you talk human language, which is a great benefit of AI, but you have to know how to speak it. You have to know how to talk. It's like kids, you have to know how to talk to them. They talk a different language than you.
Oh, that's so true. There's a similarity there.
Yeah, so there's a lot of parallels that could be written about that. And then, that's what I was saying. It's like, this is it's great, but people always give it too much power, and then it's like, no, it's a great tool. It's I will not say it's terrible. I'm not gonna say, oh, end AI right now because it's gonna destroy the earth. But yeah, it's there's always two sides. There's a plus side and there's a minus side. And you got to take the good and the bad and assess whether that's the proper thing for you. But if you're going to go build a business and you want to focus on the website and you want the website to really be your professional assistant and you want it to help you make money, I would not use an AI created website because eventually, as you're going to have to adapt to the client's needs, I was talking about, is you're going to run into a lot of obstacles you're going to have to overcome. It's just simple as that. So at the end of the day, you may have it in 2 minutes. You spend some days of correcting the the hallucinating aspects because AI is known for like, oh, I'm missing a fact here. So let me just pull up something from another person here and just put it in there. And the fact that the numbers don't even match, AI doesn't care because it just puts something in there to fill in the gap. And then actually it reinforces itself. It's kind of an error in the algorithm, sort of. They said they would have to rewrite the whole thing once they find what does it even. But it does do that. It does tend to come up with fake facts. And it's up to the human then to say, yeah, well, listen, every time even you create content, just written content for blog posts or whatever, and if there's numbers involved, yeah, the AI will have to the human will have to check the AI's facts. Basically, you become the AI's fact checker. And with websites, it's even worse because then it's your name on the line, your business's name. So you don't want to, you're selling a product. It's perfect example. Um, what should you put on your pizza was the latest one, and they said glue. Do you know how they came about, by the way? Why the AI said glue? You should
No,
put
no,
glue on a pizza.
I hadn't heard that one.
Oh well, because AI was recommending. People said, what's a good thing to put on my pizza? It's glue. And because I understand the filming industry and how advertisements, and I've been in film, involved with different various filming aspects, and whether it was live TV, movies, creation stuff, and so I know what they, and photographers especially, is when you're looking at the why can you never make a pizza perfect at home as much as it looks or as good as it looks on the TV? Like how you pull that thing out of it and it's that cheese kind of like spreads out and it's got that texture, it's got stretches out. Well, because it's not cheese, it's glue.
Oh wow.
They use glue to make the pizza look tasty on TV because Elmer's glue is a lot better than original cheese, at least on the camera. So the AI takes this fact and says, yeah, glue is good on pizza. Sure, if you're making a video, but not when you're getting ready to eat it. But the AI doesn't make a difference because it says pizza, glue. Yeah, glue is good on pizza. Use glue on pizza. But it took it from a filmmaking studio and it's recommending it
Wow.
to a guy that wants to eat. And that's AI in a nutshell. That's a perfect example. I was just lately and I was laughing at it because I was like, yeah, I exactly understand what the AI learned that.
Yeah. Oh wow.
It's the same thing like in the movies, they don't use blood, they use ketchup. So, they could say, yeah, you could treat your wounds with ketchup. You could exactly see AI saying that. You could put, you could create great wounds with ketchup. Ketchup can kill or something. I don't know.
Didn't they use chocolate or something in when it used to be black and white?
On what?
I think I saw that at one point because it looks better. It looks more like blood, like for black and white movies. They wouldn't use ketchup. I guess back in the day they used chocolate.
Yeah, and they could just color it and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
And black and white, you could just use lighter chocolate or whatever, caramel, that stuff. Yeah, yeah. There's different substances that you use, but you would never, nobody would ever tell you to eat it. To put glue on the pizza you're getting ready to eat. Good topping on a pizza is Elmer's glue. Only AI can come up with that. But this is
yep,
the error or mistake in the AIs, and again, this is where you lose control of your, over the content because you're giving it to that, and it will give you these correlations that you would normally not think of. No human would ever think of that, but the AI, hey, it doesn't eat it, it doesn't care. Try this one. Hey.
that's right.
Yeah, I know. You said you got to go because you got a meeting at 11, right, or whatever, or 12 o'clock, or well, no, your time is 9 o'clock, right?
That's right. Yep,
You got a 9 a.m.
I do.
Yeah. So, any closing remarks, advice,
Uh,
tips?
Um, I would just say, for anybody watching and listening who has a website and has only used maybe your website platform only has, or you might have a website platform with analytics built in. A lot, most more and more of them do. I use Squarespace, so I have a built-in analytics dashboard. But even with that, um, I would advise if you only have that, or especially if you only have a website platform with no analytics, then you know just go Google Analytics 4 or just Google Analytics, and you'll reach the page where you can connect your website to it and set up your property. And one thing that I think was a big improvement for GA4 and the current onboarding versus the previous is they have made it simpler to understand and fewer steps to get your property set up. So you only need to do it in a few clicks. So if you're not on GA4, you can set it up free and quickly. And I would just set it up. You'll have data starting to come in within a day or two. Usually it's within 24 hours, and Carol or myself can help with you navigate it if you get on it and it's brand new to you. But like Google GA4 is powerful and it's free, and it is a little bit confusing, but just get into it and you can explore it and get expert help to help you understand the data, set up a few reports that you can put in your library. There's a library icon towards the bottom of the main menu, and that's where you can access your customized saved reports. So just explore it, and you'll be amazed at the data that's coming in. And it's also a quick step. I can advise you on this, or anybody if needed. Um, Once you set it up, the immediate next step that I would advise, there's a very powerful and good IP address exclusion filter in GA4. So you'd want to set it up to exclude your internal traffic. And if you're bigger than just a solopreneur, then your staff's or your contractors' traffic going to your website. So you can exclude all that, and then your reports only reflect your customers and your potential customers. So I would try that, get into it. Again, it's free to jump on GA4 and just check it out, and let us know if you have any questions.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And I would say, like, if you're not tracking, again, you're not in business. You got to track everything, and that's the advantage over traditional media, is because if you put out flyers or radio, you can't measure really the impact of it. You could predict where it's going to go, but you won't be able to predict where it landed. Whereas if you use the tracking, you know where it landed, your message. So I think that's the biggest difference. But anyway, yeah, let's wrap this up. It's 10:57 in my time. So we've got 3 minutes to the top of the hour before your next meeting starts. So I'm going to end the stream here. You have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon again.
You too. Thank you, Carol.